Hi there. So welcome to the goal setting video. So this is a really important video because if you don't set goals, you don't know where you're going. And honestly, if you're not sold on goals, just go start Googling like, why should I set goals? There's a million reasons in the world why you should set goals, and I don't want to spend a lot of time in this course telling you why it's so important. Okay, we spend an enormous amount of time setting our goals and spending even more time mapping out exactly the numbers we need to hit every single day and every single week in order to hit our goals, because I like to create my life. I like to know what I'm making. I like to know what numbers I'm going to hit. I'm only doing what I'm doing in my business for a purpose. And so you've got to set goals. So before we kind of get into all this stuff over here and all these numbers, okay, so try not to get too distracted by all the numbers behind me, I want to walk through a few things here. So the first thing in goal setting is you want to think about, what do you really want? Like, really, why are you in this business? And I would encourage you not to just set goals for your painting business, but to set goals for your entire life. You know, I have goals for every different part of my life, every single one of my businesses, because that's what my goals are just like what I want. You know, like, you want something in every area of your life. You want something with your family. You want something with a significant other. You want something for your adventure, your travel, your social life. You want something with your finances. You want something with your health. You want something with your business. You want something with your income and your finances. Like, there's things you want, and write them down. Write them down. Just writing them down and seeing them every day will make a huge impact in getting towards them. Now, almost everything that you want can be broken into a monetary goal. The only reason that we work is to make money. The only reason we make money is to spend it on things or to save it. But the only reason to save it is because it takes money to live. Okay, so we need for food, for shelter, for travel, for bills, for cell phones, for the things you want to buy, for vacation. So when you think about all the other things you want, that's how you make your goals. And I think that's one of the important reasons why you should consider the other areas of your life as well when you're setting goals. You know, like, if you want to take a 2-week trip to Thailand this winter, you need to figure out how much that costs. And if you want to pay off your debt, you need to know how much debt you have. But to know how much the Thailand trip and the debt is, well, you still don't know how much money you need to make, because you need to figure out what your monthly bills are and how much you spend on food and how much you spend on fixing your car. So you need to make a whole financial budget and financial goals then. So you make your life goals, and then you need to make a financial budget. And that's really what leads me to making my business goals. I only make business goals and set goals to make money because of things that I actually want to do, or I want to accomplish, or I want to buy, or whatever. So that's why I encourage you to write other goals too, so that your monetary goals actually have some meaning behind them. Like, you're not just trying to grow this giant company just to grow a giant company. Like, but why? What is it for? And that'll also be a driving force for you when times get tough, or when you're struggling, or when things are hard. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to break your goal into a monetary goal. How much money do you want to make? And then we want to work it backwards, okay? And by the way, how much money you want to make is really what you want to aim for. Some people aim for, like, I want to have $1 million business. Why? Is it really a $1 million business, or how much you want to make? I've talked to people who have $1 million business that make only $70,000 or $80,000 on that, whereas I made a lot more than that when I had a $600,000 business. Okay, and it's a lot easier to run a $600,000 business than over a $1 million business. So you want to think about working smart, not just making things big and complicated. The next thing you want to do is work it backwards. Okay, so that's what we're going to do over here. And I'm going to go through this example with you. And then down below the video, you can download the goal setting sheet. And that'll give you this same example we're going through. And then also, it'll help you set your own goals for phase 1 of this business. All right, so let's get into it. So let's just say that when you break everything down, your goal for your first year in business is to make $50,000 in profit. And just to make this simple, we're going to make this goal based on, being in business for a year. So we're starting at the beginning of the year, roughly the beginning of the year. And down here, you'll see that we're planning on 40 weeks. Okay, because I usually plan that it's about 40 weeks that we can sell in a year. We have, November we don't really sell. We do, but we're not counting it. We don't really sell in December. We do a little bit, but we're not counting it. And then we definitely sell in January, but we're not counting it. So that gives us 12 weeks, 3 months that we're kind of assuming we don't work. And that way, I like to just give myself a little cushion there. So we're going to assume with this whole example, we have 40 weeks. And again, in the goal setting sheet, you're going to be able to make adjustments for whatever your goals are and how many weeks you have. All right, so we're going to start with the goal. So let's say the goal is to make $50,000 in profit. Now, the next thing we need to figure out then is, okay, what's our profit margin? So our profit margin, we're going to assume we're going to pay 50 to 55% to our contractors, our subcontractors. we're going to assume that with marketing costs, they're going to be 5 to 10%. And then other and administrative costs, we're going to assume about 5%. And I'm assuming these numbers because that's about the numbers that we consistently show in phase 1 of this business. My partners consistently hit a 35% profit margin, and that's for a couple different reasons. Now, we're going to pay a little bit more than 50% to subcontractors when we're starting out for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, it takes time to find good quality contractors that work for consistent 50%. So you're naturally going to find subcontractors that you're going to have to negotiate a little with and pay a little more than 50% in the beginning. Second reason is some customers in the beginning, since you have such a fat margin to work with, like if you've got a $4,000 job and you're going to pay $2,000 out to a subcontractor, you can negotiate that price down to $3,200 and still make a grip of money. And so be okay with lowering your price a little bit. Just make sure you don't do it too much and sacrifice your margin. So one key is once we make this goal, that's one thing. The second thing is you're going to need to track your goal, which we're going to get to in some later sections. All right, so contractor 50 to 55%, marketing is 5 to 10%, and other or administrative costs about 5%. That's like your insurance and workers' comp, and maybe phone bill, whatever else you have as an expense. Marketing materials would be another example. So if you break these numbers down, you're going to end up at a 30 to 40% profit margin. So for this example, we're going to go with a 33% profit margin. All right, so that's what we're going to assume here. So what we do next is we take $50,000 in profit and we divide that by 0.33. That's going to tell us that we need to do $150,000 in revenue, and 33% of that is profit will lead to $50,000 in our profit. Now we're also going to assume that our average job size is $2,500. So we take $150,000 in revenue, we divide it by $2,500. That means we need to book and produce 60 jobs, 60 customers. To get 60 jobs, if we assume our sales rate is 25%, so this is an assumption, this is an assumption, and our profit margin over here is an assumption, and that's what we get. So then if we assume 25%, that means we need to do 240 estimates to book 60 jobs. So over 40 weeks, we need to do 60 estimates a week. And the way we figure that out is 240 divided by 40 is 6. So you need to do 6 estimates a week, close 25%, $2,500 job size to make this money. So we jump over here, and in summary, now that we've done that work, these are our goals. With the marketing part of the business, our goal is to generate 6 estimates every week. Sales, the goal is to sell 25% of your estimates. So out of 4 customers you meet, you book 1. All right, and then production, the goal is to pay 50 to 55% to your subcontractors. Are you going to do that every time? No. But if you pay 55 or 60% out, let's say you pay 60% to your subcontractor on the first 30 jobs, and then the next 30 jobs you pay out 50%, you're going to end up right at 55%, which is allocated in the budget to hit some of these numbers. Okay? So as you're going forward, you want to have a simple, we'll give you an example of one, but a simple document that you use to track, hey, here's my goal of what I need to produce every week in leads, in estimates, in sales, and here's what I'm actually producing every week. So if you're only doing 4 estimates a week, you need to change things with marketing. You need to improve marketing. So go to the marketing module in the course. If you're not selling 25% of your estimates, you need to go to the sales module in the course. All of my companies sell over 35% of our estimates. Our best estimators sell about 50%, and we have a high job size. Okay, we have a really high job size. We're definitely not like a low price by any means. Do we get beat by people with lower prices? Yes, all the time. We only book half of our estimates. Half of the estimates we don't book. So we'll get into sales though in the sales module. If you're having trouble in production, go back to the production module. All of these numbers work, okay? All of our systems work. And if you're running into trouble, the key is to figure out where you're not maybe following the system, or what could you do differently, or what point of view are you holding on to that you can give up, because all the systems work, and knowing what results you need to be producing every week is the pathway. And any one of these results you're not hitting, you know exactly what there is to work on. All right, so now I want to do a quick other example just to show you what's possible when we change some of these numbers, because little tweaks make a huge difference, okay? So let's just assume instead of a $2,500 job size, let's assume $3,000. Instead of a 25% sales rate, let's assume 33. So if we just change those two things, instead of booking 60 jobs, we would book 80 jobs. Instead of 2,500, it's 3,000. Instead of 150,000 in sales, it's 240. And instead of making $50,000 in profit, you make $80,000 in profit. So we can increase our income by $30,000 without working any more. Obviously, there's a little bit more production to do, but you're doing the same amount of marketing, the same amount of estimates. But by having a higher job size and a higher sales rate, it significantly moves the needle. So if you guys can improve and have a slightly bigger job size by just a little bit, or if you can improve your sales rate just by 5% or 10%, or if you can just improve your production by 5% profitability, 5% of $150,000 is a $7,500 raise without more work. Okay, so you want to constantly be working on just improving on all these numbers. That's all we do is work on these numbers. So at our company with Foothills Painting, our average job size this year is 4,200. So if we did in our jobs, our closing rate now is about 35% as a whole company, because we've been training a lot of new sales reps this year. So if our closing rate is 35%, using the same example, right? We do 240 estimates. 35% of them, we do about 90, call it about 90. Okay, about 90 estimates done. 90 jobs booked times 4,000. We'd sell about 370,000 on that. Huge increase in numbers when you start to tweak these numbers a little bit. So at this point, I want you to go ahead and just take a few moments to read through the goal setting sheet below and go ahead and set some of your goals to start to give yourself some direction. And we'll go ahead and attach below as well a tracking document that you can use once you've set your goal to actually put in the document so you have somewhere to track, so you know exactly how you're doing and exactly what you need to do to improve. All right, because knowing where you're at and knowing where you're supposed to be makes knowing what to do really, really simple. If you're falling short on marketing, go to marketing. Falling short of sales, go to sales. Falling short on production, go to production. So go ahead, take about 5 minutes right now and do that. And also, if you have the time, I would encourage you to take a moment and think about some of your other goals too. Why are you setting the goals you're setting? What do you really want to accomplish with your life? And that's a whole other topic I can get into that I'm really passionate about, but I would encourage you to at least start setting goals for all the different areas of your life, especially with your business.